going to be exploring adding color to fabric with Procyon fiber reactive dyes. We're continuing our series of analogous colors, and today we're going to be working with the colors of violet, and blue. So in the past, we've already done the analogous colors of yellow, orange, and then we did orange, and red. And a couple of weeks ago, we did red, violet, and blue violet. So today we're going to continue on around the color wheel, working with the next group of colors. So I hope you enjoy it, and I thank you for being here today, and I really appreciate your support. So I'm going to switch over to the overhead camera, and I'm going to show you first how to fold the fabric in a flag fold, which is what we're using for these fabrics. So this process is called itajimi, and it's a process where you fold the fabric and then you clamp the fabric with different shapes of resist. And those areas prevent the dye, or those resists prevent the dye from accepting the fabric, or prevent the fabric from accepting the dye. So let me just stop talking because I'm getting tongue-tied already, and I'll switch over to the overhead camera and show you what I mean. Okay, so here we are at the overhead camera, and I've already pre-folded this fabric just a little bit, and I'm going to continue to fold it and show you what I need. So let me put my iron here so it doesn't melt the plastic. So all of these folds for itajimi, they all start out the same way. And we're working on the flag fold now, but in our previous episodes, we did the square fold. But they all start the same way. And my fabric right now is 15 by 15, and it really doesn't matter the size of the fabric. If you have a more of a rectangular size fabric, you want to start the folds in the long direction. So the first fold you do is to fold it in half. The fabric is folded in half. And then you want to take this top edge and bring it back to the fold. Flip it over, and then take this top edge and bring it back to the fold. So that's the first step, and it's no matter whether you're doing the square fold, the rectangle fold, or the flag fold, or later we'll be doing a hexagonal fold, they all start out this way. So I'm going to do that again, just so I make sure you understand it. We're going to fold it in half. And I do press my folds in as I go, but that's optional. I like nice crisp folds, but if you want more of a softer look, you don't have to press. Now I'm going to take this top edge and bring it back to the fold. Flip it over and do the same thing. Take the top edge and bring it back to the fold. And give it a good press. So now the next step for our flag fold is we're going to take this bottom left corner and bring it up to this top edge. So just take it and fold it so that that corner meets the top edge, and I'm going to give it a press. As I said, pressing is optional. Now the fabric that I'm using is a cotton muslin, but you can use any natural fiber with these Procyon fiber reactive dyes. So now with that corner folded in, this gives us the base for our triangle. So this is called a flag fold, but it produces a 90-degree triangle. The reason it's called a flag fold is this is the way the flag is folded when it's given to a fallen first responders or a military member. So the next step is to turn it over. And now we're going to take this tail and we're going to flip it back and forth over this base triangle, creating additional triangles, and they're just going to stack on top of the original one. So I'm going to fold it over, and I want to line it up with this edge and this edge. And give it a good press. Now this next fold will be on an angle. So I'm going to take my tail, fold it back, and line it up with the angle edge and this edge. Give it a press and keep doing that until the stack is complete. This edge and this edge. Now this is the angled fold. Lining it up with the angled edge and this edge. One more fold. And now you see that I have what's left is not enough for a full fold, but I still go ahead and fold it back anyway. So that's how you do the flag fold, and that's the fold we'll be using for all of our analogous colors. So let me move this iron out of the way. Okay, so the next step is to place this bundle in some soda ash. And soda ash is the fixative that we use, and it allows the dye to bond permanently with the fabric. So I have my container of soda ash off over here. I'm just going to put that in there and let it soak while we dye the other pieces. So the other pieces have already been soaked. I'm going to put on my gloves before I go any further. So actually, I'm going to get this bundle ready. This bundle kind of fell apart in the soda ash, so I just need to refold it back into position. And that's one thing about pressing in the folds. It really does help if they do come apart like this, that it's easy to get it back into shape. Okay. Now I can put my gloves on and I'll be ready to start dyeing the first piece. But give me just a minute. I forgot to bring over another container to do the dyeing in. It seems I always forget something. I suppose it would help maybe if I made myself a checklist. Okay, so this is the first bundle, and I'm just going to choose one of my shaped resist. And for this, I'm using a hexagonal tile, and I'm just going to place it somewhat center on the piece. And since I'm using 3 colors of dye here, I want to kind of give myself 3 areas to apply the dye. So I'll get these lined up. So I have an area here that I can apply the dye in the 2 corners. I'll add my clamps. And for this, I think I'm going to use the glue. So the dyes that I use, they're all from a company called Pro Chemical and Dye, and they're out of Massachusetts, I believe. There's another company on the East Coast or the West Coast called Dharma Trading Company that you can also purchase these dyes from. So this color is called Basic Blue. I don't know what the color from Pro Chemical and Dyes or Dharma Trading Company is called, but they do have an exact equivalent of this blue. So I'm going to use my pipette and just apply the dye to the fabrics. Apply this corner to this corner. And the dyes are going to bleed beyond where you apply them, but I think that's one of the nice things about this technique is the dyes kind of just blend together and create some additional colors. Now I am going in between the folds. The next color I'm going to apply is blue violet. And I'm going to apply that to one of the remaining corners. And you'll notice I do have my table protected with plastic because the dyes will stain any fabric covering you may have on your table. So this is the blue violet. I'm going to get some interesting mix of colors here because the blue that I applied first, it had already bled to this corner. Making sure I go in between the layers. And I'll put that out of the way for a minute. And for my violet color, I'm going to add some gray to it to tone down the color just a little bit. It won't be as bright as the other two colors, but that makes it a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to put a little bit in here because I don't need much. And I'm going to use my pipette to get a few drops of blue or gray to add to this to tone it down a bit. And the gray that I'm using is called neutral gray, and it's a perfect color for toning down other colors. I've got some congealed dye going on here. This gray I've mixed up several weeks ago, and I may need to dispose of it. Okay, I'll put that aside, mix this up a bit. And I'm going to use this toned down violet on the remaining corner. It's still pretty bright. I think I may have to get rid of that gray. It's probably past its prime. It's the first time I've ever had a color congeal like that though. Okay, so that's our first one, and I'm going to set this aside and move on to the next one. Now I don't need all of this mixture. I'm just going to pour it in there. Let's clean out this cup because I will need it for my next color that I want to tone down. Clean my hands off, and then let's see. I'm going to actually take the gloves off because I still probably have dye on them. I should have clamped all these before I started dyeing, but we'll make it work. That's all name of the game, making it work. So for this next piece, I'm going to just take my strip here, and I'm using thin strips of wood, and I'm just going to, now when I use this piece of wood, I can't get 3 distinct areas, so I just do the best I can. So this time I'm going to tone down the blue with some gray. So I'll just pour a little blue in here and add some neutral gray to it. Add a little more. And I work by eye a lot. I've been working with these dyes for a number of years, so working by eye is basically what I do these days. So I'm going to just apply the color to one side. Trying to keep this up. Okay, there we go. Making sure I get in between these layers. Okay, I'll set that aside for now. Now I'm going to do the blue violet. Oh no, this is violet. Now I'll do this on one corner here. And I know these colors are going to blend in, bleed into each other quite a bit. And make sure I get in between these layers. And I'll do my final color here. I should have another pipette here with me because I'm kind of cross-contaminating my colors a bit, but that's okay. Okay, so just make sure I got some in between all these layers. Okay, now I'll just move this one off to the tray. And now I need to get out that piece that's in the soda ash so we can dye that one. I'll get my gloves back on. Oh, I just did all that dyeing without my gloves. Okay. Luckily, I didn't get any dye on my hands. That's usually what happens. I'll love to take them off for some reason, and next thing I know, I'm dyeing without the gloves, and I've got dye all over my hands. Take those off for a minute. I'll try to remember to put them back on. Now I am going to add this triangle. It's not giving me 3 separate areas, but I'll go with it anyway. Okay, so I've grayed down the blue, I've grayed down the blue violet, so let's gray down the violet. So right, so I think this is the violet. So, oops, I was going to pour that out, and I guess I did. Right onto the tray. Get these gloves back on. Pour some violet in here. Add some gray to it. And now apply it to the fabric. Making sure I go in between all of the layers. By going in between all of the layers, I get a more consistent color throughout. But if you like more variation, you don't have to do that. You can not go between the layers and get more color variation. Now for the blue, I'm going to try to do something I've not done before. I'm going to try to just go in between. I don't think I'll be able to get in between all those layers, but we'll see. So I'm just going in between the gap here that's between the two layers of plexiglass. In the last corner, okay, that's all of it. So all three pieces have been dyed, and now it's time to let them sit for a little bit. Okay, so they're all dyed now. I'm going to let these sit overnight and rinse them out in the morning before the live stream. So tomorrow's live stream, I'll be showing you what these three pieces look like when they're finally dyed and rinsed out. So hope you can come back tomorrow. And if you missed today's live stream, be sure and catch the replay. I hope to see you back here tomorrow. But until then, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.